Snow falls gently on the small house at 462 Alabama Street, where the Presley family has lived for the past year, each flake catching the yellow glow of the streetlight like tiny fragments of dreams. Inside the modest two-bedroom house, 19-year-old Elvis Aaron Presley lies in his narrow bed, staring at the ceiling and listening to the silence that comes with the first night of a new year. Elvis can't sleep. His mind races with thoughts about his future, about the music that fills his head but has no outlet, about the job at Crown Electric where he drives a truck and pretends to be satisfied with a life that feels too small for the dreams burning inside him. At 19, Elvis knows he wants something more than Memphis can offer, something bigger than his circumstances allow, but he doesn't know how to bridge the gap between wanting and achieving. The radio plays softly beside his bed, late-night country music drifting through the small speakers. Tonight, every station seems to be playing tributes to Hank Williams, the country music legend who died exactly 1 year ago today in the back seat of a Cadillac, on his way to a New Year's Day performance he would never give. Elvis had never met Hank Williams, but he felt like he knew him. Hank's music spoke to something deep inside Elvis, something that understood loneliness and longing, something that recognized the pain of being different in a world that demanded conformity. When Elvis listened to "I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry" or "Your Cheatin' Heart," he heard his own feelings reflected back in Hank's voice. Lost Highway begins playing on the radio, Hank's haunting voice filling the dark bedroom with words about lost souls and endless wandering. Elvis closes his eyes and lets the music wash over him, feeling the familiar ache of connection to someone he's never met, but somehow knows better than most people he sees every day. Gradually, as the song fades and the radio DJ begins talking about Hank's legacy, Elvis feels sleep pulling him under. His last conscious thought is a wish that he could have met Hank Williams, could have learned from him, could have asked him how to turn the music in his head into something real. The dream begins slowly, like walking through fog that gradually clears. Elvis finds himself standing in a recording studio that looks nothing like the modest facilities he's seen around Memphis. This studio is bathed in golden light that seems to come from everywhere and nowhere, illuminated by some source that has nothing to do with electricity or bulbs. In the center of the studio stands a man Elvis recognizes immediately, though he's never seen him in person. Tall and thin, wearing a white suit and cowboy hat, holding a Martin guitar with practiced ease. Hank Williams looks exactly as he did in the photographs Elvis has seen, but there's something different about him here in this dream space. He seems more solid and more translucent at the same time, present but not entirely bound by the physical laws that govern the waking world. "Well, well," Hank says, his voice carrying the distinctive nasal quality that made his recordings so memorable. "Elvis Aaron Presley. I've been waiting to meet you, son." Elvis tries to speak, but finds his voice caught somewhere between wonder and disbelief. This is a dream. He knows it's a dream, but it feels more real than most of his waking experiences. The studio around them pulses with musical energy, as if the walls themselves are instruments waiting to be played. "Don't look so surprised," Hank continues, setting his guitar down and walking closer to Elvis. "Death ain't the end of the music, boy. It's just a change of venue. And I've been watching you, listening to you sing in your room when you think nobody's paying attention. You've got something special." "I don't understand," Elvis finally manages to say. You're dead, Mr. Williams. This is just a dream." Hank laughs, and the sound echoes through the golden studio like bells. "Dead is just a word, son. Music don't die. It just moves from one vessel to another, like water flowing from one creek to the next. And you," he points at Elvis with a finger that seems to shimmer with its own light, You're the next creak. Elvis looks around the impossible studio, trying to make sense of what he's experiencing. Why me? I'm nobody. I drive a truck. I can't even get anyone to listen to my music. That's where you're wrong, Hank says, walking over to a piano that wasn't there a moment before. He sits down and begins playing a melody that Elvis has never heard, but somehow knows, a tune that feels like coming home after a long journey. See, country music is dying, Elvis. Not the music itself, but the way people think about it. They've put it in a box marked hillbilly and backward. And that box is getting smaller every day. As Hank plays, Elvis sees images forming in the air above the piano keys. Scenes of rural America, of people working in fields and factories, of families gathered around radios in small living rooms, of young people who feel disconnected from the music their parents love, but hungry for something that speaks to their own experiences. Country music tells the truth about people's lives, Hank continues, his fingers dancing across the keys. But the truth is changing. Young people today, they need music that moves faster, hits harder, makes them feel like they can break free from whatever's holding them down. That's where you come in. I still don't understand, Elvis says. What am I supposed to do? Hank stops playing and looks directly at Elvis with eyes that seem to hold all the music that was never written, all the songs that died with their creators, all the melodies waiting to be born. You're going to take country music and set it on fire, son. You're going to mix it with rhythm and blues, with gospel, with whatever feels right in your heart. You're going to make music that makes people move, makes them scream, makes them feel alive. The studio around them begins to shift and change, instruments appearing and disappearing like thoughts. Elvis sees guitars that blend seamlessly into pianos, drums that sound like heartbeats, microphones that glow with inner light. But I don't know how, Elvis protests. I've been trying to make music, but nobody wants to listen. I went to Sun Records last year and paid $4 to record a song for my mother, but nothing came of it. Oh, something came of it. Hank says with a knowing smile. Sam Phillips heard something in your voice that he can't quite name yet. And that lady who works there, Marion, she remembers you. They're waiting for you to come back, Elvis. They just don't know it yet. Hank stands up from the piano and walks over to Elvis, placing a hand on his shoulder. The touch feels warm and electric, like touching a live wire made of music itself. Listen to me carefully, son, Hank says, his voice becoming more serious. Country music gave me everything I had, but it also trapped me. I couldn't break free from what people expected Hank Williams to be. I couldn't expand beyond the boundaries that country music had built around itself. That's why I'm gone and you're here. Elvis feels tears forming in his eyes, though he doesn't understand why. What are you saying? I'm saying that my time is done, but my music doesn't have to die with me. You can carry it forward, but you have to change it. You have to take the truth and honesty of country music and give it a new sound, a new energy, a new way of reaching people's hearts. The studio begins to fade around them, but Hank's presence becomes even more solid, more real. When you wake up tomorrow, you're going to feel different. You're going to hear music in a way you've never heard it before. Country and rhythm and blues are going to blend together in your mind, like they were always meant to be one thing. How will I know what to do? Elvis asks, desperate not to lose this connection to understanding. You'll know, Hank says simply. The music will tell you, and when you go back to Sun Records, and you will go back, you'll sing like you've never sung before. You'll sing like your life depends on it, because, in a way, it does. The golden light in the studio begins to dim, and Elvis can feel the dream pulling away from him like water receding from a shoreline. But Hank's voice follows him as he drifts back toward consciousness. "Remember, Elvis," Hank calls out, his figure becoming translucent. "You're not just making music, you're making history. You're creating something that will outlive both of us, something that will touch millions of people who haven't even been born yet. Don't let anyone tell you it's not important. Don't let anyone make you small." Elvis wakes with a start, his heart pounding and his head filled with music, unlike anything he's ever imagined. The radio beside his bed is still playing, but now every song sounds different to him. The country songs sound too restrained, the rhythm and blues songs too separate from country, the gospel songs too confined to churches. In his mind, he can hear how they could all fit together, how they could create something new and powerful and unprecedented. He sits up in bed and looks at the clock, 3:17 a.m. The house is quiet except for the sound of his father snoring in the next room and his mother's gentle breathing. But Elvis is wide awake, more awake than he's ever been, filled with energy and purpose that seems to come from somewhere beyond his own understanding. The dream, was it a dream? Feels more real than the bedroom around him. He can still smell the golden studio, still hear Hank's voice, still feel the electric touch of the dead country legend's hand on his shoulder. More importantly, he can still hear the music Hank showed him, the blending of styles that seemed impossible before but now sounds inevitable. Elvis gets out of bed and walks to the window, looking out at the snow-covered street. The world looks the same as it did when he went to sleep, but something fundamental has changed inside him. He understands now what he's supposed to do, why the music has been building up inside him with no outlet, why nothing he's tried so far has felt quite right. He's not supposed to be just another country singer. He's not supposed to copy Hank Williams or anyone else. He's supposed to create something new, something that carries the soul of country music, but speaks in a language that his generation can understand. The next morning, Elvis wakes to find his mother making breakfast in the small kitchen. Gladys looks up as he enters, and something in his expression makes her pause. "You look different, baby," she says. "Did you sleep well?" "I had a dream, Mama," Elvis says, sitting down at the kitchen table. "A dream about Hank Williams." Gladys sets down her spatula and looks at her son with the intuition that only mothers possess. "What kind of dream?" "He told me I was supposed to change music," Elvis says, the words sounding strange in his own voice but feeling absolutely true. He said country music needed to become something bigger, something that could reach more people. "And what are you going to do about it?" Gladys asks, though she already knows the answer from the determination she sees in Elvis's eyes. "I'm going back to Sun Records," Elvis says. "I'm going to ask them to let me record again. But this time, I'm going to sing differently. I'm going to sing the way Hank showed me." 3 days later, Elvis walks into Sun Records on Union Avenue, carrying his guitar and the music that Hank Williams planted in his dream. He doesn't have an appointment, doesn't have money for another recording session, doesn't have anything except the absolute certainty that this is what he's supposed to do. The familiar bell above the door chimes as Elvis enters, but this time he feels different crossing the threshold. The nervousness that plagued him during his first visit is replaced by a quiet confidence that seems to emanate from somewhere deep within, as if Hank's spirit is walking beside him. Marian Kaiska looks up from her desk as he enters. "Elvis, what brings you back so soon?" "I need to make another recording," Elvis says, and even his voice sounds different, more assured, carrying an undertone of musical authority that wasn't there before. "I know I don't have the money, but I've got something different to show Mr. Phillips, something he needs to hear." Marian studies his face, sensing something new in his demeanor. In the months since his first visit, She's seen hundreds of hopeful musicians come through this door, but Elvis stands differently now, holds himself like someone who knows exactly what he's capable of. "What kind of different?" she asks, though she's already reaching for the phone to call Sam Phillips. "I can't really explain it," Elvis says, his fingers unconsciously working the neck of his guitar. "I had this dream, and now I hear music differently. Like everything I've been trying to do finally makes sense." Something in Elvis's voice, some new confidence or urgency, makes Marion take notice. "He's in a session right now, but let me see what I can do. There's something about you today that's, I don't know how to put it, different," Elvis finishes for her. "Yeah, I feel it too." An hour later, Elvis finds himself in the small recording studio at Sun Records, facing Sam Phillips across a room that seems much smaller and more earthbound than the golden studio from his dream. But as he prepares to sing, he can feel Hank Williams' presence as clearly as if the country legend were standing beside him. "What do you want to try?" Sam asks, settling behind the control board with the patient expression of someone who's heard 1,000 hopefuls and found gold in maybe 3 of them. "Arthur Crudups, that's all right," Elvis says, then pauses. "But not the way you've heard it before." Sam nods, having heard dozens of versions of the R&B classic. "Go ahead. Let's hear what you've got." Elvis closes his eyes for a moment and hears Hank's voice from the dream. "Take the truth and honesty of country music and give it a new sound, a new energy." When he opens them and begins to play, the guitar seems to respond to his touch with unprecedented sensitivity, as if the instrument itself has been blessed by spectral hands. The song that emerges is unlike anything Sam Phillips has ever heard. Elvis takes Crudup's rhythm and blues foundation, but filters it through a country sensibility that makes it swing differently. His voice carries the emotional honesty of country music, but with an urgency and sexuality that's pure rhythm and blues. The result is something that shouldn't work, but sounds inevitable, as if this fusion was always meant to happen. Midway through the song, Elvis feels something extraordinary occur. It's as if Hank Williams' spirit merges temporarily with his own voice, lending it a depth and authority that transcends his 19 years. The music becomes larger than Elvis himself, channeling not just his own emotions, but the collective soul of American music, the pain of the rural poor, the joy of spiritual awakening, the rebellion of youth refusing to accept limitations. When Elvis finishes singing, the studio is silent for a long moment. Sam Phillips sits motionless behind the control board. His engineer Scotty Moore stares at Elvis with his mouth slightly open, and Marion Keisker, who has slipped into the studio to listen, has tears in her eyes. "Jesus Christ," Sam finally whispers. "Do that again." "Which part?" Elvis asks, though he knows Sam means all of it. "All of it. Exactly like that. Don't change a thing." But even as they record take after take, Elvis knows that what happened during that first performance was unique, unrepeatable. That was the moment when Hank Williams' spirit passed completely through him, when the Ghost Mentor's final lesson was transmitted through music rather than words. The recording session that produces That's All Right lasts only a few hours, but the music that emerges will influence generations of musicians who haven't been born yet. Rock and roll is officially born in that small studio, but its true birthplace was a dream where a dead country legend passed his musical legacy to a 19-year-old truck driver who had the courage to trust in a vision that seemed impossible. As news of the recording spreads through Memphis's music community, Elvis continues to feel Hank's presence guiding his musical choices. When other musicians ask him where this new sound came from, Elvis struggles to explain the supernatural mentorship that shaped his artistic vision. It's like someone was teaching me from inside the music, he tells Scotty Moore during one of their early rehearsals. Like all the songs I've ever heard were waiting for me to put them together in a way nobody had tried before. Over the next few months, As That's All Right becomes a regional hit, and Elvis begins performing the new style of music that will make him famous, he continues to sense Hank Williams' spiritual guidance. During performances, especially when he's singing with particular passion, Elvis can feel that familiar presence, not interfering with his artistic choices, but supporting them, validating them, encouraging him to push boundaries even further. Sometimes, late at night when he's performing in small venues across the South, Elvis catches glimpses of a figure in white standing at the edges of the crowd. Never clear enough to be certain, never solid enough to be photographed, but present enough to remind Elvis that he's carrying forward a musical legacy that transcends individual careers or single lifetimes. Instead, Elvis simply says that he's trying to honor all the music that came before while creating something that speaks to people his own age. He doesn't mention the golden studio or Hank's electric touch, or the sense that he's channeling musical wisdom from beyond the physical world. But sometimes, late at night when he's performing in small venues across the South, Elvis can see Hank Williams standing at the back of the crowd, smiling with approval as his musical legacy transforms into something that will outlive both of them. Sometimes, between songs, Elvis catches a glimpse of that translucent figure in the white suit, nodding with satisfaction as young people dance to music that bridges the gap between country's past and rock and roll's future. Years later, when Elvis has become the most famous entertainer in the world, when rock and roll has conquered not just America but the entire globe, when the music from his dream has influenced countless other musicians and changed the course of popular culture, Elvis will still remember that January night when Hank Williams reached across the boundary between life and death to pass the torch of American music to someone who could carry it further than anyone imagined possible. The ghost mentor had kept his promise. Country music didn't die with Hank Williams. It was reborn as rock and roll through Elvis Presley. And somewhere in whatever realm houses the spirits of departed musicians, Hank Williams continues to smile, knowing that his final gift to the world was showing a 19-year-old truck driver how to set music on fire and make the whole world dance. Sometimes the greatest teachers are the ones who can't physically be in the room. Sometimes the most important lessons come through dreams that feel more real than waking life. Sometimes death is just the beginning of a musical legacy that will echo through generations. On January 1st, 1954, Hank Williams had been dead for exactly 1 year. That night, his spirit visited Elvis Presley and changed music forever. The ghost became the mentor, and the mentor created the king.